I don't care if you're using Claudebot, Claude Code, NAN, Make.com, or any other agent creator right now, you will never truly reap the benefits truly of any of these systems without this person in place. This person is an ops manager, but not in the traditional sense. They are in fact a system champion. So for those who don't know, I'm Sheni from Icarus Growth. I help businesses increase their client capacity by building agents, automations, and systems. And one of two things happen. Either they drastically increase their headcount or they drastically increase revenue. I've had companies 2, 3, and even 20x whilst working with me. This person has been the person that has been present when those revenue increases have actually occurred. It's like a continual pattern that I've seen dozens of times now, at least 20 times now, where the people that I've worked with have worked with me to build the systems that they need built. Then they have a small jump. Then the moment that small jump has been achieved, simply because they can just take on more people and they had more people on the sidelines, they bring somebody in who's either internal or external. They find out how the systems work and operate. And then that person takes the 1 hour a week of work that the founder was doing completely off of their plate. So this kind of leads into what they actually do. So the system champion, and in this case, I'm going to interchange system champion with Airtable champion and ops manager. This person is the in-house hire who has a general understanding of the tech used to run the business. They also know how to run the business because they are the operations manager. So what are the benefits of having somebody who is the one with the general understanding of how the tech is built? Well, the first thing is the most important thing, and this is maintaining the standard of performance. So I have a book that I've been reading since I used to play American football at college, and it's called The Score Takes Care of Itself by Bill Walsh. Now, this book can be summarized as we need to do certain things in order to uphold a specific standard of performance. And if we do that, the score will take care of itself. And this guy ended up going, I think he went like 1-12 for like 2 seasons in a row whilst he was building this as an idea. And then he became one of the most winning Super Bowl NFL managers or head coaches in history. And it all came down to a standard of performance that he set. So what he was talking about is when you are about to go for an away game, you need to be suited up. You need to be suited and booted. You need to have your tie looking a certain way. All of the people every single person from the cleaners all the way to the players is aware of what the goal is. And the goal is to maintain a specific standard of performance. This is the ops manager, Airtable champion person for you in your business as well. It's the person who maintains how well the business is going to operate and has the wherewithal to understand how the system is going to help influence that goal from being achieved. This person cannot have a lower standard of performance than yourself. They need to meet or exceed yours as the founder of the business. So that's the main thing. They maintain the standard of performance. That's who they are and what they do. Number 2, they're responsible for translating process changes into system changes. The Airtable champion is the person who, when the SOPs evolve, when the processes evolve, when certain steps are omitted from the system, they know that, let's say, for example, you had 3 quality checking stages inside of your landing page building Kanban. He's the person that when he hears that it's now gone from 3 to 1, is meant to understand that this field is most likely going to have to change inside of our system. This automation may have to end up turning off. We may need to remove this. We don't need this anymore. We don't need this anymore. They don't need to specifically be able to build out the alternatives, but they need to be able to communicate with the person who's making the rules, if it's not them, and the people who are building this system in and of itself, whether you have an in-house person who knows all the tech or you hire an agency like mine in order to help build the tech. They're responsible for translating those process changes into system changes. And then the third one is innovation. They're responsible for innovation in the sense that when there are things that they find can improve the outcomes of the business, they do not need to speak to anybody else in order to put those things into fruition, to actually act on some of those experiments that they have in their mind. They are also the person who, because of their standard of performance, is aware that X, Y, and Z should be different. things should change. If we did this, we would get a little bit of a better result. And they're responsible for iterative changes and managing that process and being the interface between the person who's developing and the owner of the business, so that the systems work as you scale from 50 to 80 to 100 to 200 to 500 plus clients. This is what they do. And this kind of highlights absolutely everything there. Now, what are the actual benefits of having a system champion in the business? This is the main one. You truly, truly get your time back. Now, what do I mean by truly getting your time back? This is a law that I have found, and I'm calling it a law because this is, and again, theory, law, I don't care. There is not a single set or group of agents that will take absolutely every single action under a specific department and turn them into a 100% fully automated, I don't have to check or monitor this system anymore type agent. Nothing, absolutely nothing. You will go from spending, let's say 15 to 20 hours doing a thing, which scales linearly with the number of people that you work with, to checking for 10 minutes a day per client once something has automated the thing that is being done, to then monitoring the thing for maybe 5 to 10 minutes a week. So there is never a complete reduction to zero on that time unless you give it to somebody else. And that is what the Airtable Champion is in this regard. You always will go from doing, which has the least leverage to it, to checking, which has way more leverage because something is being done by somebody else, to monitoring. The checking person is the person who is furthest removed from the work, outside of the person who's monitoring your thing, who isn't actually doing the work in the first place. I've worked with a couple now, 2 8-figure agencies and businesses now, and the people who are the head honchos always are monitoring. They're never in the stuff, they're always working on the stuff. That's where scorecards, which show like high level numbers, and a lot of the things that you will see when it comes to like EOS by Gino Wickman, as far as like the traction methods concerned, and a lot of things that people who are following like Ryan Dice and some of his other operations based things are going. Having a dashboard, CEO dashboard, monitoring dashboard, something to look at the key numbers is where this comes into play. That is basically no work, but it's still some level of work. But that is enough for the founder to basically look at in order to know, all right, I don't actually do this stuff anymore. I'm just checking to make sure that there are no red flags. Checking and doing does not belong to the founder when things go well. It belongs to the system champion. So these are all the things that the system champion are going to do, and this is how you truly get your time back. So that's number 1. Number 2, quality is maintained because the system champion upholds your standards. This is the real benefit, because a lot of things will happen where you are the owner and you are responsible for everything, and you have this understanding or this belief that absolutely nothing's going to be done better than me if I do it myself. Well, that's fine. However, when you have 280 clients, are you going to be in all of the copy? Are you going to be writing all of that copy from scratch? 280 clients. You're absolutely not going to do that. Therefore, you need to have somebody who can uphold and maintain those standards so that you can walk off and do things that are more important than the $5 and $10 tasks that land on your plate. Number 3 is that the systems grow to meet the client demands without your direct input. And this links to the innovation point that I mentioned above, where there will be a time where, as you scale, when you have an Airtable champion, once all of these agents are doing what they need to do and the work is going on effectively, there will be some 1% errors, some 2% errors, some 5% errors that are being done by the automations and agents and systems that are being implemented. This only happens when things evolve in a business. Assuming that the thing was built to spec effectively, entropy will only start to creep in when the business itself evolves and the context upon which the agents and the systems were made start to change. That's when small automations need a different node here where some of the code that's been created or some of the prompts that have been created need a couple of extra lines in them in order to make those changes. The person who is the Airtable champion can notify whoever's building the stuff to say, hey, we're doing this differently now. This makes more sense for us to have. And then that conversation could be facilitated between the developer and the system implementer and the system champion. So that kind of covers what the actual benefits are. You truly end up getting your time back. Quality is maintained because the system champion upholds the standards, and systems grow to meet the client demands without any direct input. So who do you pick as this person? The easiest way to think about this is from a small formula that I have created. Now you can think of this as almost like a tree diagram, and I can draw this out to kind of help you understand exactly what the decision criteria is when you start to think about this person. But it comes down to 3 qualities. There needs to be a systems thinker, 1. There needs to be conscientious, 2. And the standards need to be there, which is 3. Now, systems thinkers, who are these people? These are people who are strong when it comes to logic. They understand cause and effect really well, and they have the ability to hold multiple points of reference in their head. Now, this is one of those things where without getting into a situation where you're like running IQ tests on candidates, which can have some sort of ethical consequences, the ability to find out if somebody has good logic is, 1, obviously finding out how they think and giving them exercises that will test their logic based on the criteria of what you do. So for example, you could give them scenarios based on, let's say you are an agency that does personal injury marketing. You could come up with some sort of understanding that, okay, the logical conclusion to this situation is said person who said that they had a slip and fall is trying to commit fraud, and this isn't going to work. Therefore, you can basically set up a question that has like 3 parts to it, and you mentioned the first part of the context, and then the second part of the context, and then the question right at the end is, what should we do about the situation? A, B, C, or D, situational judgment style. And then if they pick D when the answer is A, you know that they don't have it. That's a really easy way of discussing or understanding if somebody is a systems thinker. The way that I like to do it as somebody who intuitively gets logic pretty quickly is I will see if, and this is more so when I'm talking to people who kind of like work for me already, if I'm explaining a point and someone nods their head in the middle of my point as if they understand it, and then they kind of like get to the end before I've explained the end, if they can do that really quickly, they usually are a very suitable candidate for the system champion. And that's something that, again, if you're not spoon feeding your team when it comes to these logical sort of situations or logical understandings, or like what they actually need to do, you can find this out when you have conversations with the people on your team. That's the first thing. Conscientiousness is the second thing. Now, these 4, based on it's called a Hexaco test. It's basically called like the big 5 personality traits. It's like a thing that I found out about from like some like Jordan Peterson and a bunch of other things when I was doing like Myers-Briggs test to see who I am and all that kind of stuff. You kind of have an understanding of what conscientiousness is when you go through some of those tests, but it can be defined in these 4 things: diligence, organization, prudence, and perfectionism. Diligence is just how hard someone works. Organization is how well organized somebody is, how effective somebody is able to use their time, use the resources that are available to them. Perfectionism is, do they double check their work? And prudence is, are they headed in the right direction generally? Are they directionally correct all the time? Somebody who has these 4, and you'll find that a lot of the people who are your traditional ops managers are really high on organization and diligence, but they're not really high on prudence, i.e. they don't ask the question, how does this work effectively for the business? How does this become something that is going to help us meet our actual goals? Somebody who doesn't think that way usually isn't going to be a great system champion. But all of these others, if they have everything to like a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, this is a key metric or a key stance that you can actually take to understand that this person is the right person. And then the final one is standards. And we've spoken about standards a lot, but standards is simply just intolerance for low performance. These people tend to be a little bit more disagreeable, or at the very least, fidget whenever there isn't a challenge, or are really up to the occasion when it comes to there is a massive goal and I want to fulfill this goal. So that's kind of like an understanding of who to pick, the benefits you get, and what they do. So to kind of recap, the system champion is the in-house hire who has a general understanding of the tech used to run the business. They maintain the standard of performance. They're responsible for translating process changes into system changes, and they're responsible for innovation. Benefits of them: you actually get your time back because you move from doing and checking over to monitoring. The quality is maintained because the system champion will uphold your standards, and systems grow to meet client demands without your direct input. And the person that you want to pick needs to have a combination of systems thinking, conscientiousness, and high standards. And that is the best person that you could bring on when you hire someone like me to come in and make some of the systems that you would need made in order to make your business run more effectively. So if you're looking for more information on some of the things I actually build, there'll be some links somewhere for you to look out for. If you want to work directly with me, check the link in the description. There's going to be some stuff in there for you to look at, and newsletter link is in there. I'm starting to post a bit more frequently on my newsletter, so I will love to see you on the next one. Click this video here, and I'll catch you on the other side.